You're listening to the Sokan Community Podcast. Your favorite source for gaming, film, and internet debate starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sokan Podcast. I'm your host, T, and with me are Jace and Leo.
Jace.
Hello, I'm Leo.
This week has been pretty eventful on the home front for the community team here in Sokan. Shout out to Val for becoming the newest community officer.
Shout out. Raise the roof for Val.
Speaking of, the day that we're recording this is actually his 3-year anniversary in Sokan.
You did it. 3 is the perfect number, too. All of the things are aligning for you.
There have actually been several promotions here since last season. I think maybe everyone here?
I think you're right. There have been. We didn't even talk about that prior.
No.
We just kind of glossed over it, but we're all kind of promoted.
We leveled up in the off season.
Yeah, good job, us.
Life is good. We're amazing.
If you want to know more about who was promoted and when, check out our Twitter feed.
I'm a little low energy tonight. I'm going to try to do a little crack cocaine or something to just boost myself up and see if I can't get a little juice in the veins, maybe a little methamphetamine. I don't know. I need something to give me a little excitement and verve so that we can get passionately into talking about these geeky topics to which we are so devoted.
Speaking of, this week, we'll be going over the upcoming Dune Remake, Cyberpunk 2077's brief microtransaction issue, and the recent information on the new consoles to come this year. On September 9th, Warner Bros. Posted a trailer for their Dune remake. The classic film remake was announced way back in 2008, and it's taken until now to finally get made. This is a 12-year-old movie, guys. That makes it, what, a 4th grader?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, really, it's an older movie than that. I mean, it's the source material is, I think, older than me, and I'm old.
I think it is.
For the record, I believe the oldest in the room.
Yeah, but don't tell anyone. Let's keep that between the sheets. Yeah, Dune was a 1965 science fiction. Believe it or not, I wasn't born in the 60s. I wasn't alive in any of the 60s years. So, yeah, this source material is classic science fiction by Frank Herbert, and it is a tale that science fiction lovers have loved pretty much since it came out. I'm actually a big fan of the story, but I actually did not know until reading the script that this particular iteration had taken so long to find footing.
Yeah, nor I. That's interesting. I wonder what kind of setbacks they've had, or if they've intentionally taken as long as they have to try and do it right.
I feel like there's a certain point when you're making films where you just have to, like, bite the bullet, because at some point you're going to be making this movie and you're like, all right, cool, we're almost done. And then they come out with new special effects and you're like, oh no, time to redo everything because our special effects now have to be up to par with the new stuff that's coming out.
Right?
Back
Unless
to the
you
drawing
do
board.
or you do puppets. Everyone loves puppets.
Everyone loves puppets. This is why animated and stop motion films are superior to live action.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. What?
We like 3 things. We always circle back to them.
So I did watch, I think what's probably the most popular film adaptation. And I don't know. I think it might have been my youth when I watched it. I found it really hard to follow, and I found it kind of slow in a lot of places. But since watching it after that initial viewing, it's a really compelling story, and I think it's a really interesting take on what the future of humanity might be, because who knows, we're remarkably flawed, and if we make it as far out, what's it like, 30,000 years or 20,000 years in the future, some crazy amount of time, who knows what we'll be able to do.
I was a huge fan of the original Dune, like the 1980s Dune movie. I loved it. I was borderline obsessed with it, and none of my friends got it at all. In fact, I have friends who, to this day, that was a long time ago, you guys, 1984. And I had friends when I was a child who I made watch it. I had friends in college that I would make watch it. And to this day, they give me crap about it because they found it incredibly boring. Now, admittedly, it's a slower moving movie and it's very cerebral, but I thought it was just fantastic. Plus, Sting is in it. Who doesn't love Sting?
I know,
He's
right?
barely in a cod piece even. So that was probably an awakening for me in some ways. But I loved Dune, and I love the story of Dune. I actually really was a fan. There was I think it was a miniseries on Sci-Fi Network many years ago, that I also thought they did a very good job on it. But I still preferred the original, just I think because of nostalgia.
I'm really interested to see it through a modern lens. If I don't know, it's such a hard call to make on whether or not what to change in the retelling of a story, and then of course how true do you stay to the original story, but still affording the writers and the director and everybody involved their chance at some creative liberty. That's a really tough call. I'm hoping it stays. I'd rather it be closer than farther away than the original story, and I suspect that's probably a huge sentiment of a lot of the fan base. They really just kind of want to see, I think, a reskinned Dune with modern special effects, with new tricks that cinema has learned in the 1984. Was that like 36 years ago?
Good
Man.
night.
There's a lot's been learned since then, and I'm really interested to see it. The trailer blew me away. Looks so good, and I'm stoked to see it. Yeah,
I am too. In the nerd sphere, one of the things that we were all really anxiously waiting to see is how they were going to handle the personal, like the body shields. And the trailer gave you a peek at that, and it looks like they nailed it. So I think they're going to do a good job.
Yeah, better than the Minecraft characters that they used to be.
So a remastered Dune, but not a redone Dune.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Well, this is definitely an adaptation nightmare and has been for a while. Ever since the book was released way back in the 60s, the film rights have hopped around and been owned by all sorts of companies and picked up by all sorts of names. 2 screen versions existed before the 1984 version, and there was that miniseries in 2000. With only one of many attempted versions actually having made a name for itself, do you think that this adaptation can survive a critical 2020 audience? And I think that actually ties a little bit into some of what you're saying of what do they change about it too? Because if I remember right, there's a little bit of controversy about a couple of the topics in the original source material.
Ooh, I'm not a fan of controversy, but I do like knowing about it.
Spill the tea.
Yeah, let's share the tea. I don't know. I like I said, there's that fine line to walk between affording creative liberty and perhaps even improving on a story, but still trying to stay as true to the source material as you can in order to honor what the fans are really interested in watching. I do think fans today are way more critical than they probably were in 1984, and then of course they probably were in the 60s with the book. But I don't know. I think while we are more critical, it's because we're more savvy, and I think audiences at this point, they kind of get when there isn't heart put into a show, or there isn't the right kind of love of the source material that shows through. And I think a lot of people, they pick up on that now where they might not have. So long as they come into it with the right intentions, which it looks like it has, or they have, then I think it'll be fine.
I'm kind of just still agog at the fact that I said that the sci-fi miniseries was several years ago, and you said it was in 2000, so that was 20 years ago.
A few is
Kids.
20.
Kids, cling to every moment in your life because it's spilling out so quickly. Soon you will be dead.
It just disappears like
Ching,
the
by
memory
way.
of a dream.
That blows my mind. I feel like I just watched that on Sci-Fi years. Anyway, yeah, there is some. Even I told you about the personal shields being one of the things that the nerdy nerds were talking about on the blogs, and another one of the things is that it was really clear in the trailer that so you get to hear many of the classic like quotable lines from the novel, which is great because the novel has those thinky cerebral lines that made the original, or I guess the 1984 movie, so good and memorable, and those themes feel deep. They feel, when you say fear is the mind killer, like there's just a resonance with that. You think that means something. It's almost like it's a religion, and people are really devoted to a lot of that original theme and kind of symbology. But it was really clear in the trailer that one of those classic quotes they changed and said crusade rather than jihad, and I guess we'll just wade right into controversy, but that's part of what makes the story so good and what really makes sci-fi in general so good is when you can delve into things that are difficult human concepts and then kind of elevate them to a level where you don't feel as personally maybe offended or tied or biased to them, and then you can see this element in a new light in a different way, and it makes you kind of re-examine what it means to be human, what it means to be existing in the world that we do live in. I always think that's the best sci-fi, but it was really clear that they were trying to pull away from those hot button words like jihad and use something more like crusade in the trailer. It was blatant to a lot of the more purist, I suppose, who are looking for Frank Herbert's vision.
All right, in that case, let's go for the cast. Which means I have to pronounce some names.
Drum roll, please.
Everybody seems to love Timothy Chalamet.
Eh.
Yeah.
Survey says.
Chalamet. Everyone seems to love Chalamet lately, but we've also got big names like Rebecca Ferguson, Stellan Skarsgård, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Zendaya, and many more. Zendaya was in all caps, so I had to put the appropriate amount of excitement into my voice. So how do you guys like that lineup so far?
I'm a big fan, and I feel a little bit like a trope or a cliche to say how much I really like Timothy Chalamet, because I do. I think he's just a precious angel, and I think I probably discovered him when everyone else did, around the time of Call Me by Your Name, and that movie destroys your life for a couple of days. But I have since seen him in several other things that I didn't realize he was in, when as a little feller. But he's just such a good actor. He brings so much gravitas to a role for being such a young fellow and kind of, I don't know, twinkish maybe. But certainly he's great. I was not a Zendaya fan probably until Spider-Man, and then I felt like I had to like her because she was MJ.
I think it's in the contract when you like Spider-Man.
Right. So then I actually became aware of her when she was just a child and was on the Disney Channel. My daughter was a fan of a show that she was on about two preteen or tween dancer girls, and so I watched a lot of hours of Zendaya. But I think it's great. I think that the cool thing about these all-star casts is they're not like super recognizable all-star casts. They're recognizable, yes. They're in these AAA movies for sure, but it's not like it's a household name yet, maybe. So these are names that, I don't know, I guess most of them kind of almost are if you've got freaking Thanos in there, but it's a good all-star cast. It's people who bring a lot of depth to roles, not just a name.
Yeah, they're phenomenal actors, and I agree with your point about them. Like, they're A-list celebrities, but they're the kind of A-list celebrity that I had to look up some of their names, and when I saw their face, I was like, oh yeah, Josh Brolin, that's Thanos. Like it was that kind of, or at least they're at that level of celebrity. With the exception of, we're upsetting Sil. We did not pronounce Zendaya properly. And let it be noted, Sil is a Zendaya fanboy. So we have to make sure we get that correct. Zendaya is also one of the actors on that list that I have a very similar history with. I remember her from the Disney Channel, and it wasn't until The Greatest Showman when I saw her like in a real role, like really acting, and I was impressed. I thought she was phenomenal, and I'm excited about all these, let's say, really recognizable faces, if not names for me, getting together, and I think they do all bring really good acting to the show, and I'm excited to see them play these parts.
I'm just excited to see Oscar Isaac in a movie again.
Me too, and he looks just fantastic in this film as well. He plays Paul Atreides' father. Is that correct?
Duke
Yeah.
Leto.
Yeah, Duke Leto. I think that's just fantastic casting. I'm really excited about the cast.
I'm gonna watch him the whole time and be like, oh, look, it's Poe. And then, like,
Yeah, it's hard for me, even looking at his picture on IMDb. I see Poe, and I'm gonna have a hard time backing away from that.
once you
I guess
go
that's
Star
the curse of
Wars-
Star Wars, right?
Go Star Wars, you never go back. And
Yeah.
once you mention it once on a podcast, you'll mention it in every episode.
Well, but even for the actors though, like that was a big issue for like a lot of Star Wars actors. Daisy Ridley is Rey now, and I don't know, Mark Hamill like was forever Luke. Dude is still Luke whenever you see him. I mean, he was a phenomenal voice actor. I think he is the quintessential Joker voice. But yeah, still, I don't know. It's hard not to see them as those roles.
Which is really funny considering that Dune has been cited as both the part of the inspiration for Star Wars and an anti-Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
I will spare you another lecture. That was last episode.
Give us the tea.
Dune is set to release on December 18th, so we're not too far off, assuming that quarantine doesn't strike yet again. Fans of the novel or the 1984 film won't have too long to wait before we get another look at this version of Paul and Arrakis. We live for a cyberpunk future. Some of us insist that we are already within one. And the ever-patient CD Projekt Red fans are concerned because they're hearing about a leak confirming that their cyberpunk future for Cyberpunk 2077 will contain microtransactions. And then we're promptly confused because that was quickly denounced, and then more so when 2 minutes later they said that there would be. So we kind of went back and forth on that. To clear it up a little bit, according to CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk Online are technically separate projects. The single player is self-contained and it's a one-payment story. The online multiplayer, on the other hand, will contain microtransactions. If you're intending to play the multiplayer, do you think that this is just going to be a matter of like power-ups or more just cosmetics?
I heard
Go
both
ahead,
of us
Jace.
take a breath at the same time. It was both that inhale to hear me talk. Well, I'm just going to take a stab here. I don't know. I assume that these will be cosmetics because that seems to be the only way that you can say with any sort of palliative easement that you're going to have microtransactions. Stress not everyone. These will only be either quality of life and or cosmetic improvements to your play. So my guess is that they will be just that.
It is my hope that they will be just that. This, as far as I know, is this CD Projekt's CD Projekt Red's first foray into online gaming, multiplayer?
I
Does anyone
believe
know?
so. I don't know the answer to that, but I think so.
So that gives me pause to be a little concerned, because there are valuable lessons to be learned in online spaces and in multiplayer spaces. I think a lot of companies have learned hard lessons on what fan bases and the gaming community are both looking for and willing to tolerate. And they're looking for no microtransactions, because that's just such a bad word. They're willing to tolerate microtransactions that are cosmetic or quality of life. Me personally, I mean, I think Jace, you and I are on the exact same page here. Don't mind it. Like it
Right.
I've got no issue whatsoever if it's cosmetic and quality of life. In fact, I'm in favor of it, because it means idiots like me are going to pay for that jacket I like, or that, you know, that new hat that just came out that I think looks cool.
Ching.
And what that does is it improves not only the longevity of the game, but the quality of the game, because they're going to be able to pour more resources into it, ideally. Now, where it goes awry is when those microtransactions make the game pay to win. And a lot of companies have attempted the pay to win model, and it's only been through fan backlash that many of them have learned not to do it. Some still do it. And I'm concerned that CD Projekt Red has not learned that lesson. And who knows? They may... I want to like CD Projekt Red, because I have loved their games, and so I want to like them, and I really hope they don't screw this up. But I don't know. Fingers crossed.
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. Imagine that. Just because I feel like they are gamers who became producers, and I feel like they get it. They know they know what it is to be a gamer. They know the frustrations of living in a world where money is everything, and the bottom line is, and the shareholders of the end of the, that's the end of the conversation. So I think that their philosophy in general is going to be more about catering to gamers and a good quality product to put out. I'll give them that. But yes, you and I are totally aligned on this. I do not mind dropping money. In fact, I'm going to drop money if I want something. I'm actually, Leo and I are both playing Marvel's Avengers, and I'm actually looking for a way to drop some money, because I'm waiting for that Ultimate Captain America costume to pop out so that I can drop my real world money on it and have something unique and flashy to dance around in. Even though I do have a Captain America that goes shirtless sometimes.
I've already looked through the menu of I'm maining Iron Man, so I'm looking through like, what kind of color do I like his suit to be, and what let's see when that one comes up for sale.
Exactly. I've been doing the same thing, man. We're whales. Is that what they call us? Whales?
Yes, they call us whales. Although I don't think we're technically whales, because I don't know what the dollar limit is, but whales will spend hundreds to thousands on some games. I've even heard, can you believe it, like on mobile games, people dropping thousands of dollars? Ugh, gross.
Yeah, I've actually met those people.
I'm probably an Elder Scrolls whale, I imagine.
I probably am too.
It was actually through the mobile games is how I first learned of that term and what it means. And specifically it was associated with loot boxes, because they would just spam the loot boxes over and over again until they got the rare skins.
Oh, I did that in Star Wars. Yeah, I used to do that in Star Wars Old Republic. So I would, whenever those boxes came out and there was a certain outfit I wanted, I remember dropping a lot of money on those boxes until I got what I wanted. But then you sell stuff. The good thing about Star Wars is it wasn't bound. So if you got something you didn't really want, you could put it on the market or whatever they called it over there and make a lot of credits.
GT gun.
Yeah.
So the exact details have for CD Projekt Red specifically, has been limited. We've talked a lot before about the differences between what the different routes you can take, because, you know, as you guys have said, they said, we're gonna give you guys the opportunity to buy more stuff within the game. And we went, oh no. And then they went, but it's a new haircut. And we went, oh. And we've talked about all sorts of different things, usually involving EA. It seems most companies guilty of using loot boxes or any other microtransactions have learned what people really hate. But even the word just seems stained now. Are we tired of talking about them already? Have we had enough of people getting upset? Are we ready to accept it as a fact of life and move on?
I mean, I think Jace and I are in lockstep on this one. I think my opinion on this is at least pretty clear, that I think this is something gamers just need to get over. If it's something that is quality of life / cosmetic, of course, pay to win microtransactions are the devil and should die in a fire. And companies that employ them should feel bad about themselves. But if they are purely cosmetic or purely quality of life, not only do I think gamers need to get over it, I think gamers need to adopt my perspective and be in favor of them and to use them as a means of continuing to support the developers and companies that are putting out games that we like. Because like once I buy a game, for a lot of games, like the initial price, that's all the money I'm going to give to that company. If it's able to provide me with an online experience, or it's able to provide me with more time, like Marvel Avengers is right now, I'm willing to put a little bit more money in to show my appreciation and to look pretty, because it's online Barbie time.
Mm-hmm. We love our online Barbie. Fantasy Barbie, Space Barbie. I've played that in so many games. I'm going to go out on a limb here and maybe take a little bit of a controversial stance, because we always talk about how cosmetic, quality of life, yes, but pay to win, no. One thing that I don't remember if this was last season or another season entirely, I do think that there might be a place to allow people with less time and more money to compete with people with only time and maybe no money or refusal to spend money, as long as you don't get an unfair advantage by spending money, like getting something that other people can't get. I don't mind giving people the opportunity to spend some money and skip ahead. I don't like it so a lot of mobile games are like this. I don't like it where you are limited in your playtime by how much you spend. So you have to buy more credits in order to get into this particular, like you've spent your time credit for the day, for instance. And so in order to have more time to play, you need more gems. So you have to buy the gems that then let you progress and to get another mission and click on that mission. And I don't like that kind of microtransaction. I really don't have a terrible problem with gear as long as you can get the gear in game as well. I don't think it should be any better than you can get, but I really, it as somebody who doesn't have as much time to game as I want, if there was a way for me to buy with money end game gear so that I can do end game stuff, and maybe not be any better than anyone else, but certainly be able to participate, compete, and rank, then I'm practically okay with that.
Oh, I think therein lies the difference. I'm against that. I think I'm strongly against that too, as a matter of fact. I think it cheapens the experience if you can just buy it. Granted, there are some games that suck when it comes to getting that kind of gear. Did you ever play EverQuest, Jace?
I did not.
Oh man, I remember hours and hours spent camping something for one piece of gear that one person in the party needed, and like every fight the fight itself would last like 5 minutes, and then it would take like 20 minutes to recover your resources in order to get to the next fight. It was just a crazy lengthy game.
See, let me just drop $25 and hand me.
Well, the truth is, I just don't play games like that anymore. I can't. But at the same time, like I'll identify those games, like the ones I just can't commit the time to. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to be able to just buy the gear, because I don't know. I think it diminishes the experience. I think it diminishes what's needed to
It
get that
depends on
gear.
what you're wanting out of the experience. So, like, if say, I want to play with you and some of the other officers or whatever, but you guys are so far ahead of me because, say, my scheduler, I've had family in town. We'll go with real life lately. I've had family in town. I can't sit down and get at the computer. You guys are playing, and I want to play with my friends. Well, then the experience for me is actually enhanced because I get to play with my friends by just dropping some money to get to the level or the ability score that they're at. I mean, I get what you're saying as far as cheating your actual game experience. Certainly, I agree with that. You're not getting the full experience of whatever it is the game designers wanted you to get, that thing. But in this new, I guess it's relatively new, world of online gaming where the experience really is about hanging out with buddies online, I don't have a problem with, or partially because I'm in this boat a lot. I would prefer to be able to just hang and not have to grind up something in order to play
Sure.
a game with my friends.
I mean, I'm with you. In my opinion, though, the more palatable solution for me is games that allow scaling, I think is probably the right term.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you're more or less on par level wise with folks that you group with, but when you're not in that group, you get deflated down to, you know, however much time you've been able to commit to that game. I favor games like that, like ESO, for instance. It'll scale you when you group up with folks and you go into certain content. I don't know. I prefer that. I would much prefer that than just buying my armor.
I think personally, I'd just be more concerned with the idea that, like, if I didn't have the time, I would then have to spend money to keep up with my friends.
Yeah. Well, like for instance, the situation Jace was talking about is one that I found myself in. Yeah, he and a buddy, Silver, were playing Marvel Avengers, and I had just gotten the game, and I jumped on to go with them, and like the content that I could even participate in was severely limited to what they could participate in, so they had to go down to a lower level area and try and run around as I just kept running in and dying. and the two of them had to swoop around and pick me up, and like that's no fun for anyone. That's part of why I've been so obsessed about playing the game, to actually level up so that I'm not the weak link going forward.
Running around the tutorial area with your friend who just got the game, like, are you done yet? Are you done yet?
Yep.
We've all been there.
Cyberpunk is coming real soon in November, assuming they don't pump it again. Please don't pump it again. Whether you're paying the base price and hitting the campaign solely, or jumping into online and putting in a little extra to give yourself some blue hair or whatever, we'll be there with you and probably spending several hours at the character creation department. Recently, Microsoft and Sony have started to announce pricing, specs, and exclusives for the Xbox Series X and the PS5. Both consoles have released pricing at $499. That's the same cost as the previous generation for Microsoft, but a higher price than for Sony. Do you think $500 is worth it for these new consoles?
I think it's pretty standard fare. I mean, when you think about how much you spend on a gaming rig, you're spending most times double that, if not more. Sometimes a lot more. So, you know, if you're just buying a machine just to game on, $500 seems really fair to me. I don't think that it's out in left field. I'm not surprised at all that Sony is coming up in price to match what Xbox is going to be. So I'm perfectly fine with it.
Personally, I find $500 to be very steep in order to sell your soul and to dive into console peasantry. So while I can appreciate that some folks want to pay that amount because they might not appreciate what peasantry actually is. It's not a dollar amount I'm willing to spend. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to get them, because as passionate as I am, I'm also a hypocrite, and I have two daughters that they would much rather play, just a simple plug and play kind of game. Like, we got a Switch over the summer, and we'll probably get one, maybe both of these. And as much as I hate to support the industry of peasantry, I don't think it's too steep. Seriously, though, no.
Both consoles have also announced backwards compatibility. The 360 and One systems games will work for the Series X, and PS4 games will work on the PS5. Why do you guys think Microsoft insists on continuing 360 compatibility now that we're a couple generations forward?
There's some really great games on 360, and unless they're going to re-release them on the, what's it called, the Series X, then you're gonna have to keep your 360 or your One plugged in order to play your classics. And to me, it's just smart business when you have, especially when you've got like online stores where you can have like the Xbox Live subscription and try this out for a little while. You've got an entire library of games now that you can pull from. Some of them critically acclaimed gold standard games that really reach into some nostalgia for some gamers.
Yeah.
And immediately sorry, I got a little frog in my throat. And immediately they're available in your library, which I just think it's smart business.
I think at some point they're going to have to make the decision on whether or not they're going to continue that backward compatibility, or at least how far back they go with it. I don't know how difficult it is to re-release some of the old games on the new platforms. I don't think it's terribly difficult, and I do think they're just going to have to start making those calls to continue holding on to some of those older generations. Is, I think, it's gonna make the development more difficult of the next generation. It's why you can't get original PlayStation games to play anymore now, unless they've been re-released. I think for the same reason I dislike consoles in general, just how they kind of hold the gaming industry back. They're kind of doing it to themselves as well by insisting on holding on to these backward compatibility models.
But sometimes it's super fun, like when you want to just milk that moment. If you're bored on a Sunday afternoon, nothing to do, and you want to play Spyro. Now, granted, Spyro was remastered here, I believe, within the last year, and it probably would have been remastered anyways. But you can just have those brain dead cotton candy moments for gaming, and I think that it's good business. I think that when you are able to provide that as a service, especially for your subscribers, and it's going to triple, quadruple the size of your library, then it's a no-brainer. Some games will never be fun again, and those should be let go, but some games are fun forever.
I agree. I think it's smart business for them to continue trying for as long as they can, but I think at some point they're going to have to just make the step to re-release. I don't know what the term is when you like remaster, I guess, for the next generation. I think they're just going to have to bite the bullet and start doing that. Although, you know what a better platform is to play some of those old games that you've just been jonesing for and haven't been able to play in a while? It's PC, by the way.
Can you literally play Spyro on the PC? I have no idea.
No, just older game. Like, I can play a game from, 1990 if it's a PC game. I just have to download it.
Sure. Yes, you can certainly do that on your older games. I have no problems slumming it in the peasant quarter. Yes, me lord. I'm happy to get down there with the scum and play on. Sometimes I would prefer to just chill out and put it on my big screen TV and veg on on a console. But I work on a computer all day long too, so there's probably a little psychological situation there too. But I'm happy to do that.
You can hook your PC up to a television as well,
Yes,
and
but
you can get a controller. Like, you can have the console experience with a PC.
Yes, but that's adding a whole lot of like situation. Have you ever tried to do that? I have. And you've got to like plug and switch. You either buy extra equipment so you can have an easy swap switch, or move your computer to where it can now reach your TV. It's just too much. I'll spend the $500, put that box right next to my TV, and plug and play.
I've never tried, because I have such an aversion to console peasantry. I don't want to taint my PC experience with sitting on a couch with a controller looking at the TV. I'm a huge snob about it.
The emulators exist.
This is true.
I've never played one.
Not all of them are exactly legal.
No, sometimes you may have to sail the high seas, if you know what I mean.
But it is out there.
Even for games that aren't out anymore, like Star Wars Galaxies, there are emulators where you can play on private servers. You can't
tell you
do
what,
that
though.
on a PlayStation, baby.
Sometimes the nostalgia is better than reliving the experience. I'm gonna tell you, because I
Yeah.
tried to go back to Star Wars Galaxies one time, and it has a very special place inside of my brain. But I was like, this looks like garbage.
Well, the exclusive markets for the two systems are both opening up. For Xbox Series X, a lot of the launch titles will be available on PC, so Leo may not have to stoop to console peasantry.
Yes.
Halo Infinite, a Fable reboot, State of Decay 3, Forza Motorsport, and a lot of non-AAA titles are coming out on or soon after Series X's launch day. Any of these titles jumping out at you?
So I think I've said this before. I'm not only am I a slut for high fantasy, I'm also a slut for zombie games. I've got like a dozen zombie games on my wish list on Steam that I'm just waiting for a sale, and I don't know if I'm actually gonna play them. But they all look so good. I don't know what it is. I like post-apocalyptic stuff, and I especially like post-apocalyptic if it has zombies in it. I don't know why. Anywho, the point of that tangent was that State of Decay 3 looks like it's gonna like State of Decay was one of my favorite zombie games, because it had like you had to find compatible people. You actually like, you know, there was a whole lot of, there was more to it than just killing zombies. You had resource management, and you had, you know, people to contend with, and there was permadeath, which most games don't have. Like, if a character died, they died, and you had to figure out how to continue on without them. That's legit. That stuff is fun. Well, in a video game.
That's sad.
So State of Decay 3 is one I've got my eye on for sure.
I liked the Fable series coming up. I think that Fable was its own kind of fun. It was kind of like fantasy light in a lot of ways. It wasn't a super deep game, but I liked the story, and while it wasn't open world, it kind of gave you those old school RPG vibes with that kind of pathing situation. So I'm interested to see what they'll do with Fable next.
I remember I played Fable with my wife. Man, when did it came out? Like, we were like newlyweds, I think, or very early in our marriage when it came out. But we tried two different playthroughs, I think, as most people do. One as virtuous and good as you could, to see your character become like they change appearance and become the good angelic version, and then we played the evil one to make the character like evil and demonic. That was the only reason we kept playing, was to watch that change.
I never can get through an evil playthrough. I've tried Mass Effect. I want to go Renegade. I just can't do it. But, you know, here we are again talking about being paladins in the room. I end up being a shiny Halo person.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite playthrough. I never do like. We played the shiny Paladin Angel version, and we played that one all the way through because like that was the fun game. And then when we did the evil one, we got to the point where we got as evil as we could look, and then we quit playing because we didn't want to finish it.
Got that Dark Side Corruption 5 and you were out.
Yep.
Howdy.
Well, as for the PS5, our exclusives look like a new Ratchet and Clank title, Stray, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and once again, a few less than immediately popular titles. Any of those games enough to make you consider getting that console?
What do you say, Jace?
Nothing jumps out at me just at first glance. I mean, what do you think?
No?
Of course, Spider-Man, and Miles Morales at that. I will tell you, this is a little bit of an aside as well. Into the Spider-Verse was a movie that I saw the trailer for, and I thought, that looks like a fun little kid movie. I'll probably watch it someday. And someday came, and it came out on one of the streaming services, and I watched it, and I fell in love with it. I was already a Miles Morales, kind of quasi fan. I'm a Peter Parker guy for sure first, but I liked the story of Miles Morales, and it was interesting to me to have a kind of another take in a different avenue for there to be another Spider-Man. But that movie cemented my fandom for Miles Morales for sure. Miles Morales does make an appearance in the previous Spider-Man PS game, and you get to play as him a little bit before he is spiderized. So I am stoked to play as Miles Morales in the next Spider-Man game.
So to quickly answer the question, the answer is no. None of these games are enough to make me consider getting either console. Now, I also loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was a fantastic movie. I was surprised at how good it was. I think we saw it in theaters when it first came out, and I was like, okay, it's going to be, a Spider-Man cartoon, but it wasn't. It was so much better than that, and it was a really good story, a compelling story. And it was. I'm not a huge comic book guy. It was my first exposure to the character of Miles Morales, and I dug him. It was well told, a good character. And I liked the interaction between the kind of tired and worn out Peter Parker and the fresh-faced Miles Morales. Like that was a really cool dynamic to see. But it's not enough for me to dive into peasantry. Though one of my girls is going to want one of them for something, and I'm an idiot and I'll buy it.
I just recently played through Spider-Man. Not recently, I guess it's been 2 months now, but some point in pandemic life, and enjoyed it just as much the second time. It's a really fun game, Leo.
I believe you. I mean, there are a lot of fun games out on consoles, just not fun enough for me to get it.
Well, regardless, the Xbox Series X is due to release on November 10th, and the PS5 is set for holidays of this year. This week's Tea Time question comes from an old friend of ours here on the podcast, Ofalo. Ofalo asks, what platform or bandwagons have you jumped behind that did or didn't take off? From Betamax, HD DVD, the Zune, or even Sega Dreamcast?
I love how he threw Betamax in there.
I know. Yeah, thanks. I think that was like a little smile and nod for us old fellers.
Right?
I didn't have a GD Betamax, so follow.
My parents did. I had
Our
one at
neighbor
my
did.
parents' house. Yeah.
I guess I kind of fell into the HD DVD phase. I just was cleaning out a closet and I found a whole box full of DVDs. You know, when everybody just was going to have their own library of movies, and I mean, I guess that's always been the case with VHS or whatever, but I was pretty committed to having a movie library, and a lot of that HD DVD, a lot of my titles were HD, and I don't know, I guess I kind of got behind that. I mean, if there was a box, I sort of did. And of course, no one does that sort of thing anymore. However, that's not totally true. I have 2 thrift stores that I oversee for our agency, and DVDs go like hotcakes. So there is still a market out there if you just want to spend $1 a piece. I will say one that took off for sure was me and the rest of America got behind this product called Apple. The iPods, the iWatches, the iPhones, the iPads. I'm all into the Apple world and have all of the things. So that's definitely a bandwagon that I'm riding with many millions of people.
There was a little fad that I bought into not long ago, where it was forecasted that every house would have a personal computer in it, and some people were skeptical about it, like really a personal computer, kind of like back in the days when every house had a radio and people would gather around the radio, and then every house had a TV, and then every house had a personal computer. I'll say I'm a PC fanboy, if that wasn't plainly obvious. But no, to actually answer this question, I have an embarrassing little admission I need to make. I was a huge Sony PlayStation fanboy back in the day. When I think I had
Well,
Super
the truth
Nintendo
comes out.
there was I don't know if they were the console wars back then, but when Sony PlayStation released, I remember being just dumbfounded at how good the games were, how easy it was to play them. And I was a huge PlayStation fanboy for a little while. And Xbox came out and I was like, no, Xbox is the devil. And then, I don't know, PlayStation 2 came out, and then I eventually, I bought my own PC and I saw the light. But until then, well, that's obviously a bandwagon that is still ongoing. PlayStation 5 here we're talking about. So, yeah.
I think
my dark history.
I remember having an Apple IIc when I was a younger person in the home with the parents. So we had personal computers even back then when they were just, I guess that's not just coming out, because I think there were versions like the Apple IIe and ones that came out before, but we were an Apple IIc family. And then, when I went to college, I had a computer. I remember when there was a quote unquote computer lab at my college, and it was like 3 computers upstairs in one of the empty rooms in the dorm. Like they hadn't even committed to that crap yet.
We were visiting some family over the weekend, and one of them said to me and my wife, she was like, when I went to college, we had to go to the library and we didn't have Google to answer all our questions. And I was like, yeah, neither did we.
No joke. How old do you think we are?
Yeah, right. It's like, I had to go to the library. Like the internet was just kind of catching on. This was in, I graduated high school in 97. But T, how about you?
Well, funny you should ask, because I did have Google. I can't really.
Kids.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say that there was a technological trend that I did or didn't get behind, because I didn't have the income to make my own financial decisions when any of this was first coming out. Honestly, the sad thing is, the closest I can think of to a fad that I bought into, or invested some of my own money into, was actually back in elementary school. So this would have been early 2000s. There was this trend for a while where people wore these they were rubber bands that were shaped like different things.
Yes, totally remember those.
Those silly bands.
Yep, I remember
I
those
don't
too.
remember them from my childhood, but I was in the school systems when the kids had them.
Yes. Because I remember that when they got banned, there were a lot of kid trends that I remember that got banned while I was watching them happen, like Heelys. Because I kept scratching at the floors.
Heelys.
Yeah.
I hated
Way
them.
too old. I was way too old to be wearing Heelys, but I sure as shit did.
Did you really?
Yes, I love skating like I have my whole life. I dig skating and rolling, and like I've always been into that crap. And when those came out, I was like, I don't care how old. And I've always looked a little younger too, so I lucked up on
I'm
that
surprised
regard,
that they like were in your size, that you could like as an adult get them.
but- Yes, they had adult size Heelys.
I remember kids that had just like rainbows just all the way up their arms because they would like, because you couldn't, it wasn't just like that you had them or that you had a couple that were special. It was like, how many can you physically wear at one time? And that's why they started banning them, is because kids were like actually cutting off the circulation in their arms and like were starting to
Oh
do
my God.
damage. And
Kids
it was
do
like,
stupid stuff.
Yeah, I was
We-
gonna say kids are dumb.
it also like it sparked this whole underground market, and people were trading different shapes and colors, and it's like, well, do you have the red dolphin? No, but I have the pineapple. Oh God, I don't know what happened to them. I had like 300 of them at some point.
I had a spitball collection whenever I was in elementary school.
Can't relate.
How gross.
Yeah, so that's the fad that comes to mind for me. My colored plastic nonsense.
Did we entertain you, Ofalo?
I remember pencil fighting back in
Oh, I
middle
loved
school.
pencil fighting.
No, you had to make the you had to make the longer swords out of the or dry erase board markers.
Oh, I remember that too.
Gotta
Yeah.
stack
We
them
had
together and then whack
chalkboards.
each other to look at give
You
apart.
still had dry erase marker or boards, at least
didn't-
at like college.
Yeah, sure, in college, but not in elementary school. In elementary school, it was chalkboard 100%.
Yeah, chalkboards and yeah, in elementary school for sure.
See,
But
when I was in elementary school, we had the smart board, which was that computer thing that they like stuck on the side, and it was like an interactable touch thing with the stylus. And like,
Yes,
We
we
had
have those at
overhead
work now,
projectors.
and I love playing with them at work. In fact, I do a bunch of presentations, and I insist. And they're like, "Do you want the board?" Like, yes. Please turn the board on.
Yes, I'll
please.
figure out a reason later.
I just play with it.
it was actually really funny because like in elementary and middle school, like one class would have a smart board, and then you go to the next one, and they had to wheel in the little projector when like Bill Nye was playing on the TV that was like on the really squeaky cart, and
Yep.
like it didn't make any sense. You just went back and forth.
I remember that cart, the AV cart.
The
we called it.
AV cart. I loved being picked because I was kind of a little nerd. I loved being picked to go get the AV cart from the library.
Yep, from the library. Yeah.
All right. Well, regardless of what fads come and go, apparently school never changes. If you guys would like to submit a tea time question for the podcast, head on over to sokengaming.org/sokenmedia and find the submission bar on the right-hand side of the page. Thank you for tuning in to the Sokan Podcast. For more Sokan Media, visit us at sokengaming.org/sokenmedia, follow our Twitter at sokengaming, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sokan Gaming Community, and look for future episodes of the podcast on Google Podcasts and iTunes. Until next time, I've been T.
Misa Jace.
I am. I have been, and I will remain Leo.
We'll see you next week.
Stay classy, Soken.
Thank you for listening to the Sokan Community Podcast. Craving more? Visit us on Twitter and YouTube at Sokan Gaming, as well as our website, www.sokengaming.com. Until next time, stay classy. Right, Jace?